rather saying me about that property, would you mind saying about that, like what property we have secured for, and the literally next door, same land size, same house attribute, what it has sold for?
See, I've attended a few introduction calls from some of the other what we call the financial planners and whatnot, or people who can tell you about the next suburb which is going to have a boom. And under the hood, I'm not a kid. I was not born yesterday. When you hear things like, oh, blah percent return, and then that's next booming location, we can get you the property for under the market value.
I remember like from our very first conversation that we were talking about you were planning to buy a property in a house and land package, or might be you were planning to extend one of your existing property.
Yes.
Right? And then from there onwards, like we have changed the plan and we put the strategy together. And initially you were quite reluctant just to engage a buyer's agent, right? Can you walk us through that? Like, what was your mindset then, and after you engage us, what was your mindset and how you got the help from us? So hello everyone. Today we're going to talk with one of our client, Mr. Puneet, who has been very esteemed client, and he's working for one of the very big firm in the Australia. We would like to hear from himself, the legendary Puneet, what we have done for him and what experience he had with Ash Buyers Agency. So I would like to welcome you, Mr. Puneet. I hope in this interview we can just talk about how your journey has been so far and what guidance you have gotten from us.
So not sure if you're hiring me for a job, but I will say yes. Happy to be part of this discussion, if I may. And a little bit about myself. So I work into IT for a big US-based organization. I think if I touch on Ash Buyers Agency or yourself, I learned about you guys through, I believe, social media. I keep close tab on certain communities, primarily property related, wherein I see you being very active and proactive in responding to people who are probably newbie and have questions, someone who's early in the journey and whatnot. And I think that's where we initially engaged in terms of the conversation. And then I learned that you run a buyer's agency, and I was in the market to look at something, procure something, and that's where the process kind of kicked off.
I remember like from our very first conversation that we were talking about you were planning to buy a property in a house and land package, or might be you were planning to extend one of your existing property.
Yes.
Right? And then from there onwards, like we have changed the plan and we put the strategy together. And initially you were quite reluctant just to engage a buyer's agent, right? Can you walk us through that? What was your mindset then, and after you engage us, what was your mindset and how you got the help from us?
I think what you call the discovery call or the introduction call, right? See, I've attended a few introduction calls from some of the other what we call the financial planners and whatnot, or people who can tell you about the next suburb which is going to have a boom. And under the hood, I'm not a kid. I was not born yesterday. When you hear things like, oh, blah percent return, and then that's next booming location, we can get you the property for under the market value. Honestly, that's all fluff to me. The reason is people are trying to sell their own stock or whomsoever they're, so to say, selling the stock for. I believe they're working for themselves as opposed to working for me. Because if I'm paying fees to my buyer's agent, I think my buyer's agent should be working for me and looking after me as opposed to selling someone else's stock and maybe making money in two different ways, right? And hence, I think I was a little reluctant in terms of why I don't want to go on that path. But right from the introduction call, when you educated me in terms of these are the 30 different steps that we go through, this is how we procure the property, I think I resonated. I liked your transparency. I liked the process that you follow. I understood it's not necessarily about something that you're upsetting. It's rather more about here are my requirements. You're happy to work around those requirements. And again, I think some of the questions that you answered for me also showcase you bring that wealth of experience doing this. You're not something that, you're just starting doing this. Because I'm pretty sure I threw a few curveballs at you and you were good at answering those questions. That's, I think, the most important bit. So that clear communication, the guidance, the transparency, and the knowledge that you brought to the table, you managed to touch on some of the aspects of, let's say, why or why not with a pros and cons approach. Should we go under a trust or should not go under a trust? What are the pros and cons of approach. So I think the information that you brought to the table was, so to say, the decision-making opportunity for me. And that's where I made the decision of, okay, sure, you know what you're talking about. You're working for me as opposed to selling someone else's stock to me. I think that's where the decision got triaged and changed towards, yes, I'm more than happy to leverage Ash's buyer's agency and get engaged. And then I think the process was pretty much straightforward. You pay a blah retainer, and then I got the finance sorted. Once the finance bits were sorted, I let you know that, I'm ready to go. Rest, we know, we managed to procure what we were looking for.
Thank you, Puneet, for answering that. You already said really good words about me, but I definitely want to say something about you as well. Look, I deal with a lot of people on day-to-day basis, but what mindset you have brought, what position you are at as well, it is not everyone can occur that pretty much. So the mindset what you brought to us, it was challenging for me, because you are at a level, you already have done quite a few for yourself, you already have helped few of your friends as well, and I'm sure what we were talking about the other day as well. So that was definitely challenging for me as well. But I also want to let our audience know that regarding the structuring part, we are always bringing the professionals to the game, and we are always telling them to advise you and not advising anything by ourselves.
Yeah.
So regarding what you have said to us, definitely it is quite delightful to hear that. We always try the best thing for our clients. We making sure that we are not selling anyone's stock or kind of thing, because you are paying us, or you are paying any buyer's agent just to achieve your dream or achieve the goal what you have desired. We'll go to the next question. That you have spoke to quite a few people before engaging me, right? What was the one thing you just got stuck on and you thought I may be the right person for you going forward, taking the journey and take the goal what you are trying to achieve for?
I think one of the bits that you mentioned in one of the conversations, that I think I literally asked you this question in one of the meetings: why should I be paying you whatever the fees might be, right? And then you were like, see, you'll be paying for achieving that bigger picture goal, maybe 2, 3, 5 years down the line. And furthermore, you mentioned you'll try your best to, and again, there are no guarantees, which I understand. And again, I don't like guarantees. The moment I hear the word guaranteed return and guaranteed rent and guaranteed this and that, it's all up in the air. I kind of don't resonate with that. You said you're going to try. And I think for me, that was the most important bit. You said you're going to try to at least get me an undervalued property, which means I'll be able to recoup the money that I'm paying to you, right? And I think in our particular instance, we know maybe if not thrice, but at least twice, we have definitely had that equity bump in the property already, knowing what the other similar properties are selling for. So for me, it was a win-win from the perspective of, yes, I'm paying you X amount of money, but if I'm getting that money back literally on the day one by the time the property settles, right? There's nothing for me to lose. It's a win-win opportunity, and that's where I think I was like, sure, happy to progress, happy to move forward. And again, you touched on how you've kind of tried to attain the similar results from your other clients as well. And some of the case studies that you presented, I resonated, the data spoke, the research that I did kind of lined up, and hence the decision pertaining to hiring, let's say the Ash's buyer's agency.
I appreciate that. Regarding when you talk about this particular property, what we have secured for you, rather saying me about that property, would you mind saying about that, what property we have secured for, and the literally next door, same land size, same house attribute, what it has sold for? If you remember,
I do remember,
yeah,
because
okay,
that's the game. If we
yeah.
wanna play this game of, let's say, procuring and building wealth out of property investing and whatnot and leveraging, I know. I think the next door property got sold for $110,000 over our property, which are very similar. Even if I say, let's say, the next door property was presented a little bit better from the aesthetics or cosmetics perspective. But again, if I need to put a dollar value in terms of those aesthetics value, right, I'll say maybe 20 grand, 30 grand more, which means there is still, 50 to 60 grand worth of money that we have sort of made from the equity standpoint.
Yeah, I would definitely say that. Even because the even Arbitata value, it's more than $120,000 extra than what we have secured for.
Yeah.
Right. Great. Another thing also I wanted to ask you is that the property what we have secured for you, it was literally appeared 24 hours ago, and within
Yeah.
24 hours we signed the contract. It was exclusively off market property. I am confident that that property has only come to us, and because of the relationship with the agent.
Oh,
I'm not sure
absolutely.
if they have signed to someone else. I'm not sure about that, but we did it, right?
Absolutely. So this is one thing that I believe the value that you bring to the table. And I say you, for instance, the buyer's agent should bring to the table, right? Is that connection with the people that you guys work with. Because, there are more like me, investors who have some money sitting aside to procure an X style of property. But if that X style of property is not hitting the market, right? Or unless we are the first one knocking at the door, then we know we're going to lose the bus. And once the properties come to, let's say, real estate or domain, then we've kind of missed on the opportunity, right? So the idea is, right, when the pictures are done and you have those connections with the appropriate property managers and whomsoever you work with, your team, I think those bits were imperative for us to procure the property at the right stage.
Yeah.
And then I think this is where lining up the ducks in a row from the perspective of the finance is sorted, right? You mentioned the finance need to be ready because we hit
Yeah.
hard and be ready to go. And hence, I think we got the result that we wanted.
I definitely want to ask one question when you are pointing
Please.
out on the finance thing is that like a lot of people when they come to me, they always most of the time they come to me with the finance pre-approval.
Yeah.
What do you want to say on that part? Because I'm sure like you also come to me, when you come to me there was already pre-approval was ready for you, but then you realize that like the structuring was not right for you from the what you trying to acquire, what goals you have got there. So what do you want to say to those people, who just get to the bank or mortgage broker and getting the pre-approval done and then finalizing, oh, where do I need to buy?
I believe it all boils down to the individual. Every individual is different. Everyone is in a different stage of their investment journey. And it all boils down to what is my short-term, long-term plan? What do I want to do? And I think the time that we spent for you to understand where am I at, what are my goals, and then lining up that should we go or procuring on my name and potentially think of, I don't want to go into detail, but let's say, do we want that negative gearing? Do we want to leave that for now? Or probably have a trust structure, whatever the scenario might be. The point I'm trying to make here is, I think that validation or the scoping of the individual's requirement and their stage, the journey of their procurement of properties it was important, and you listened, and then you acted based off my particular requirements, and I think that's where I see a lot of value coming in.
I appreciate that. As you know, Puneet, I am big data guy. I love numbers. I love playing with numbers. You find me anytime, and pretty much I am on Excel finding out like what is the right thing for my clients and what is the right strategy we are putting together. After once we secure the property, we always keep sending results and the datas and examples and kind of thing to the groups what we have created. Do you find that valuable as well, or you keep getting that information and keep getting yourself updated from there, or is what do you want to say about that
I'll
part?
be honest. So I have not been so efficient in
Yeah.
accessing the information, but all the information that I've accessed, I think pre procurement was definitely very valuable. I do see every now and then some of the tips and tricks that you do share, and I find them very valuable. I'm not an avid social media
Yeah,
user,
I know.
but having said that, I still let's say eyeball the information, and mostly I find the information that you send out is very useful.
Lastly, Puneet, I just want to end this interview with a quick one, but I want to thank you for the all referrals you have given me, including your accountant as well, and that is definitely bringing us a lot of value to us, that showing that what we are trying to achieve for our clients, it is worthwhile, right?
Thank you.
And thank you so much for that. And last not the least, do you really enjoy the content what we put on the social media?
Yes,
Again,
whatever
you are not
content
so
that I
much.
do see, yes, the content is pretty good.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much, Puneet. Puneet, appreciate that. We are looking forward to purchase the next investment whenever you are ready, and we go from there.
Thank you so much. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Cheers. Have a
Thank
good
you.
one.